Hey, how's it going, everybody? Swagkage here, and today I have brought a friend with me, my good buddy Six here.
Yeah, if Itachi never switched sides, it's very interesting. Very interesting.
So this topic is extremely complicated. I tried to record this a while ago, and I remember thinking when I was pitching it to Six, I was like, I remember it got complicated, but how it got complicated is escaping me. And then I started talking to him about it before we actually sat down to record, and every single time we got past one point, one of us was like, oh, but what about this? And what about that? So on and so forth. So if this video is really long, that's why. The topic is just like way, like there are so many more factors than I originally expected when the thought first came to mind. Right? I think the same is true for Six. We were both shocked by how much this ballooned into different like decision trees and like choose your own adventure.
It's literally like you go down one path and then that path branches off into 3 different paths. And then each of those paths have 3 different paths to go along with that. It's like a constant rabbit hole, like multiverse theory type thing we're going down here.
Yeah, and so I also want to clarify too, because the title may have misled some of you. Granted, this is not a Dragon Ball video, so maybe you didn't expect it, but we are not doing that kind of what if video, all right? This is not like a story or anything like that. We're like analyzing the premise and trying to figure out what the most likely outcome would be, not necessarily like constructing a narrative. I mean, I guess we are kind of doing that, but that's not like at the core of the video, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So do you just want to like get started right at chapter 550 or whatever?
Yeah, 550 I think is where Naruto and B start fighting Nagato and Itachi. Yeah. And so this is basically where like the timeline is going to branch off, is this fight right here. So for those of you who need a quick recap, Naruto and B ran into Nagato and Itachi in the original series, and they almost got killed by Nagato alone and were saved at the last second by Itachi after he broke free from Kabuto's control thanks to Kodo Matsukami. He planted Shisui's eye inside of Naruto and gave it a very specific sequence of events under which it would like emerge from Naruto, activate the eye, and it was supposed to target Sasuke, but it ended up affecting Itachi instead. So in this timeline, we're just going to assume that either Naruto doesn't have the Kodo Matsukami Crow or Itachi gave it a different command, but literally everything else is exactly the same. I don't want a butterfly effect from that specifically.
Yeah. I think it's better if we just say that Naruto doesn't have the crow, because Itachi using his Mangekyo on Naruto and B is likely, especially with Kabuto just wanting to take them out, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's better we just say
that.
Naruto doesn't have the crow.
Under these circumstances, the fight would take place, right? You know, they would start throwing hands with each other, and Naruto and B would immediately lose.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say immediately, because they did go back and forth with Itachi and Nagato for a minute. But as soon as Kabuto told Nagato at least to get serious, it was over for Naruto and B. They could not keep up with Nagato. He was massively more powerful than them. They got overwhelmed, and that was just by Nagato. They barely beat Nagato, even with Itachi's help, and now Itachi would be on the other team, right? So, like, the scales would shift so, like, it's hard to convey how much more difficult this is for them. Like, they lose the most powerful member of their team to the other team. They just have no chance. There's no situation where Naruto and B beat the two of them.
Yeah.
I think everybody can agree on that.
It's more like Itachi doesn't even really have to get involved at this point. Like, he can kind of just let Nagato handle him. And then if you take a look at the main series, that's probably how it would go anyway, because of the way Kabuto wants to take Naruto and B out. He wants to basically put their souls into the King of Hell that the Rinnegan can summon, and then eventually he's going to bring them back through some method or another. We couldn't really figure out what that was. It was Edo Tensei or Rene Tensei, something like that. But he wants to bring them back. He basically wants to get them on his side to get Madara, quote unquote, or Obito in this case, to come to his side and basically bend to his will. So that's definitely the more likely path. Itachi just sitting back while Nagato handles business, and like Swag just went over, that's gonna be very easy. He already did it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the only reason he didn't take Naruto and B out is because Itachi interfered, which absolutely will not happen under these circumstances. So another thing I would just like to clarify, because this is a little bit confusing, is that the tailed beasts probably won't die. Kabuto seems to want to use the tailed beasts as bargaining chips with Obito. I'm pretty sure because he wants to trade them for Sasuke. And we'll get into how that's going to go in a minute here. That's its own aspects of this discussion. But for right now, the main thing is that I think he wants these tailed beasts alive, or at least Naruto's half of the 9 tails alive, and the 8 tails as well. So one way or another, the Rinnegan Soul Steal thing just might not, like maybe it kills Naruto and B, or maybe it's like a temporary thing. It puts them in some like suspended state of consciousness, or like it's like a coma or something. Yeah. Or maybe it's like how when Minato used the Reaper Death Seal, and he was sealed inside the belly of the Reaper. When he came out, he still had the 9 tails sealed inside of him. Now that's different because he like bound the 9 tails chakra to him with a contract with the Grim Reaper. So it's like I don't know if the same thing would apply here, but Six and I both agree that however it works, it's pretty likely that the tailed beasts aren't gonna die. Yeah. I don't think either Kabuto or Obito want that.
The main reason for it was like, okay, we went through the Minato example. We were like, well, okay, their souls are intertwined. Maybe it's not the best example to bring up. But then we remembered how when the Raikage was confronting Naruto and B, going into the war, one of his plans was to basically kill Naruto so that the 9 tails would disappear, and then it would reincarnate later, in order to buy time so that Madara wouldn't get it. So yeah, the Biju probably won't die. I think Kabuto is pretty smart. I think he would know something like that. Like, he wouldn't do it if it meant he was going to lose like the 2 most important pieces to him at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So he somehow would, he would store them in the King of Hell. Somehow the tailed beast would be alive, I guess. And he would tell Nagato and Itachi to come back to base first. I think at least he's telling Nagato, that much is certain, because he wants to bring the tailed beast, I guess the Jinchuriki containing the tailed beast, as close to him as possible. But he'd probably tell Itachi to go with him too, just because maybe somebody could come along who's strong enough to do something to Nagato. Maybe it's doubtful, but I think that Kabuto would be like aware that together, the 2 of them, there's just no way anybody's taking out both of them at once.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of why they were paired up in the first place, right? Like in the main series, they were paired up because with Itachi's Mangekyo and with Nagato's Rinnegan, they were unstoppable. At least in Itachi's words, that's what he thinks.
And this would also probably be like full power, not crippled Nagato as well, because if things proceed as they did, then Itachi wouldn't need to jump in, and Nagato would just absorb Beast Chakra the way that he did. So he would be mobile again and everything. Itachi wouldn't have to like carry him, and he wouldn't have to fly around on the bird or anything like he'd just be able to walk normally.
Yeah.
Now, where this gets really interesting is Sasuke ran into Itachi like just naturally in the original timeline when Itachi was on his way to Kabuto to get Kabuto to release the Edo Tensei. Now Itachi would be heading back to Kabuto to give him Naruto and B, and Sasuke would probably follow Itachi the same way he did in the original series, or at least try to, but here Itachi would like not just let Sasuke do that, because Kabuto's main goal when participating in the war was to get a hold of Sasuke so that he could perform experiments on him or whatever, right? Like steal his body, find out some more secrets about the Sharingan, something like that. Who knows? But he wanted Sasuke. That's the main thing. And the reason he was gonna, get like that he wanted in the original series to get a hold of Naruto and B was, like I said earlier, to trade them for Sasuke, because he thought that like Obito had ownership of Sasuke or whatever, like because they were working together at the time that the 2 met. Now, for Kabuto to just see Sasuke walking around like this out in the open, he'd just be like, oh wow, I just won the lottery. He would have everything that he wanted. He wouldn't even need to work with Obito anymore. So he would just tell Itachi and Nagato to capture Sasuke, and I think that everybody can agree there's a 0% chance that Sasuke wins that fight. Yep. Like, unless Hagoromo comes down and meets him right then and there and gives him the Rinnegan, he's not beating Nagato and Itachi at the same time. So we can safely assume that Sasuke will also be taken care of. He probably won't be killed, but he'll be knocked unconscious. and then Nagato and Itachi will continue on their way back to Kabuto with all 3 of these people in tow.
So next we kind of had like 2 ways to think about this, whether or not Kabuto would send these people to the ninja HQ, or if he would send them to, like, do sort of a clean house on the battlefield. It's not really likely that Kabuto knows where HQ is. The first thing we immediately thought of was obviously, sensing it with Sage Mode, but Kabuto's not in Sage Mode at this point, and he has no real reason to enter it. He didn't send anyone there in the main timeline, so that's probably not all too big of a concern for him. So he's probably going to send these people to the battlefield in order to do some cleanup. And keep in mind, in this timeline, there are no KCM Naruto clones around. And the KCM Naruto clones are said to have turned the tide overwhelmingly in the Shinobi Alliance's favor. So with Itachi and Nagato there, who just beat that guy, I mean, the alliance is going to be overwhelmingly in the White Zetsu's favor in this timeline.
Yeah, like the war is just going to completely like flip in Kabuto and Obito's favor. It won't really be in Obito's favor for long, because I think Kabuto's going to try to take charge of the whole war and gain all the spoils from it for himself, which we'll get more into in a minute here. But I mean, like the Edo zombies and like the Zetsu are just gonna overwhelm like everybody, especially when you throw Itachi and Nagato into the mix. So basically, what Kabuto would probably do is he would take a look at all the different battlefields, and he would figure out who needs to be eliminated first, just to keep himself safe. And he would probably think, well, the most powerful members of the Alliance army, naturally, and the 2 strongest that are currently on the battlefield at the time that this would all happen would be Gaara and Inoki, currently fighting the Edo Kage. Now, the Edo Kage might just be enough to take out Gaara and Inoki anyway, but I think there are 2 reasons that Kabuto would send Nagato and Itachi there. First, to make sure that the Edo Kage are free and like not locked down by 2 of the other 5 Kage, so that they can be used to help him quote unquote negotiate with Obito. And second, just to make sure that none of them make absolutely sure, I should say, that none of them come and interrupt his discussions with Obito later when they happen, right? I think that Kabuto would want to eliminate as many powerful people from the world as possible, and just kind of like force an unconditional surrender from the Alliance by getting rid of all of their powerful members. Because I mean, as soon as Nagato and Itachi win this fight, Kabuto has everything that he wants, right? He got Sasuke, he got Naruto, he got B, and that was what the whole war was for. So, like, he would probably send Nagato and Itachi to the desert battlefield, and I mean, it's a wrap, right? Like, it's all over as soon as they get there, with all 4 of the Edo Kage, I guess all 3 now, since Garo, I think, would still take out Rasa.
Yeah, Rasa's gone.
So with Gengetsu, Mu, and A the Third, plus Nagato and Itachi, like, I don't know what they're supposed to do without Naruto on their team. Like, they just get cleaned up, and it would probably be quick.
They genuinely couldn't do anything to the Third Raikage before Naruto's appearance at all. Like, Naruto, this is just a shadow clone, keep in mind, and he just got done beating up Mu. Just a shadow clone was enough to, take out the Third Raikage. But none of the other Shinobi Alliance, Tamari is the strongest wind style user in that division, apparently. She wasn't able to do anything to the Third Raikage, even with help with her little wind casting net or whatever. They couldn't do anything to the Third Raikage. So you got this impenetrable, unstoppable force, and then you got Itachi and Nagato stronger than him at his side. This whole battlefield is basically just like Madara 2.0, right? Just split up into different bodies. Like they're all unstoppable opponents for the other side. It's really like when Kabuto keeps Itachi, things start to go overwhelmingly in his favor. Like Itachi really put a stop to something pretty terrible going down.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Itachi and Naruto, basically, like, once you take them off of the allied shinobi forces side, it's bad for them, like, really bad. And so, like, Gaara, Onoki, all of those other characters who were there, like Tamari and like people like that, Of course, all of the nameless fodder ninja, they're all dead, and it probably happens fast too. I don't think it would take them very long. I also don't think that Itachi or Nagato would like play with their food. I think that they would just, I don't even know if Kabuto would leave their personalities intact. So I think that everybody would get taken care of fairly quickly. The only question is like how quickly. I don't know if it would be instant or anything like that. I think everybody agrees that there's nothing that Onoki and Gaara are going to be able to do to them, right? Which sucks too, because another thing about Gaara is that he's one of the best sealers in the Allied Shinobi forces because of his like sand jutsu that he can use to seal Edos. So getting rid of Gaara is like huge for Kabuto. And I'll stop saying Kabuto and Obito because they're not going to be a team unit for very long after this. But it's huge for Kabuto, right? That eliminates one of the biggest threats to him. So the main point that I'm getting to here with how long it takes is, at some point, Zetsu is going to go tell Obito that Kabuto is in possession of Naruto and B. I don't think Zetsu wants Kabuto to have them because that stops the 10 Tails from getting summoned, which stops the Infinite Tsukuyomi from getting activated and also stops Kaguya from coming back to life. And that, Zetsu doesn't want any of that. So he would probably go cry to Obito like, hey, Kabuto is betraying you. You need to go put a stop to him. So I don't know how many members of the Allied Shinobi forces Nagato and Itachi would kill before this happens. It's possible that it's limited to just the Kage and the other people who are there in the desert. Maybe Tsunade, A, and Mei all get there too. I think that that's less likely. It's still possible, but I mean, they might have to show up like immediately because of how dire things get as soon as Itachi and Nagato show up in that desert. But I think that it's definitely, I'm almost certain that they'd be able to wipe out Gaara and Onoki. Like, everybody who was initially there, I think, is done for. The only question I have is, can Itachi and Nagato make things so bad that the other Kage have to show up and take them out before Obito finds out from Zetsu about what's going on? And
I don't think
I'm
so.
like 50-50 about that. I think 50-50 is probably not. I think I would side with 6 here. I think I'm leaning towards probably not. I think it's possible, but not particularly likely.
I don't think so, only because Zetsu was already fighting one of the 5 Kage. He was fighting Mei, and he was fighting Chojuro as well. And I think the urgency of bringing Kaguya back and wanting to get Madara to, be the 10 Tails Jinchuriki or whatever, I think the urgency of all of that would cause him to move extremely quickly. Now, it's not like Zetsu with Madara, where Zetsu and Madara have like a telepathic connection and they can just talk wirelessly, basically. He has to actually get to Obito. So I think it would be basically of the utmost importance to either travel underground or run there to let Obito know what Kabuto is up to. Because Kabuto, keep in mind, like the things we've been mentioning, Kabuto is up right now. Kabuto has every single piece of this war currently going in his favor. The only thing Obito still has that Kabuto can't completely control is his 6 Edo Jinchuriki. That and I guess Zetsu. That's it. Kabuto is basically, won by this point. So I think Zetsu is definitely gonna rush to tell Obito before something like that happens. Now, the thing is, can Obito get there fast enough?
With Kamui, he probably would. But, no, he would probably want to go with all 6 of the Jinchuriki is the thing, so I don't think he would go there with Kamui. I think he would actually try to physically travel there.
Yeah.
So he probably wouldn't teleport there. It would probably take him a bit. And in the time that it takes him to get there, I think that Itachi and Nagato are at least going to take out Onoki and Gaara.
Yeah.
It's possible that they get the other Kage, but...
Do you think that Tsunade and Raikage, because, they arrive with the light speed jutsu or whatever, do you think that they get, like, if they get there, do they interfere with the battle that's about to ensue? Because Kabuto's not on the battlefield yet. It would just be Obito.
Well, I don't think Kabuto would go there. I think that Kabuto would stay in his cave, and he would probably summon Itachi and Nagato to him whenever Obito shows up.
Yeah, that could make sense. I could see that for sure. So then, if that happens, what does Obito do to the 5 Kage? You think he just leaves?
I think Obito would leave the 5 Kage alone because I think that Kabuto would be the most pressing matter to him for sure, because he has control of Itachi, Nagato, Madara, and he has Sasuke, Naruto, and B in his possession. And honestly, Kabuto could force Obito to ignore them too. He'd just be like, I'll kill Naruto and B if you don't come like right now or something like that, right? You know, he could send like an Edo Tensei, whoever he wants, really. I think he would try to kill as many members of the Allied Shinobi forces as he could and prioritize them in order of like power before Obito gets to him, and then I think Obito would become his main priority.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I forgot to take that into account. Kabuto has the advantage where he's like basically bossing Obito around. Right?
Yeah,
and I guess we did say earlier like, oh, okay, Obito wouldn't like he would rush to the battlefield with the Edo Jinchuriki. I guess it's not impossible that he like just sucks all of them into Kamui, goes there with Kamui and spits them back out. I don't think that's.
But I think that that's unlikely. I think that like he might, but I don't know if he, cause like I think he just like go there, right, like with them behind him, cause you know he could have just done that to Naruto and B, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing with that. Like we talked about this a little bit before recording, but like, where was he going? was he planning?
I feel like he had to have just been trying to find Naruto and B.
Yeah, I mean, so if we take it in like main timeline, and he was actually trying to find Naruto and B, then yeah, I agree. Like he would just run to Kabuto. It might take him a minute. We don't really know how far away Kabuto is from that battlefield, but we could assume it would take him a pretty decent amount of time to actually get there. Especially considering how Naruto like split off all of his clones, to all those battlefields. So take him a pretty decent amount of time to get there. He kills like as many people as possibly can before Obito gets there, and then we're like in basically, well, not the end game, but we're getting towards the end game with Obito versus
like
Kabuto.
The start of the end, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that again, like I said, Gaara and Inoki are done. The other Kage are possible, and then if they go, I think that that's probably as many as Kabuto can get, but he'd probably go after like Kakashi and Guy too, because they'd be the people he's like next most worried about.
Yeah. So we see like 8th Gate Guy versus what Edos did he leave out there? I mean, there's no Edos that are gonna.
I think Guy would not use the 8th gate unless it's like Itachi Nagato are about to kill Lee or something.
Yeah. I mean, even then, it's not going to do anything, right? Because they're just Edo.
Yeah, exactly, because he can't seal them.
Yeah.
I don't think it's likely that it gets to that, but I think that basically, as much time as Obito gives Nagato and Itachi, that's how many people they kill. There's no one in the alliance that can stop those two. There's like no one who'd be able to get to them. Like, okay, actually, this is where we can bring up one thing that's going to come up in the Obito-Kabuto fight. Maybe Kakashi could Kamui one of them away. He would have to Kamui the whole body, not just the head, because, you know, they can regenerate. But then Kabuto could just summon them out. And I didn't think that this was the case until 6 reminded me that Sasuke summons his hawk into Kaguya's dimension.
Yep.
So Kabuto should just be able to summon the Edos out of Kamui, which is insane. Yeah, there's like no counterplay to these two like behemoths that Kabuto would have, right?
And then if Kabuto has these guys on like automatic mode, they're definitely taking out the ceiling shinobi, right? Like immediately. So there's none of that on Guy and Kakashi's side. So there is really like Kamui or bust.
The alliance is probably going to be down some people. I think, like I said, at worst, it's Gaara and Inoki are gone. Maybe some of the other Kage. Maybe more than that, but I think more than that is probably unlikely. I think by then, Kabuto would secure Nagato and Itachi. And, I mean, he'd probably also have all of the Edo Kage with him, too, right? And he would basically bring his strongest Edo summons to him. He might just bring Edo, Itachi, and Nagato to the cave to make sure that the negotiations with Obito go smoothly, and he might send the other Kage around the rest of the world to deal with other people.
I think he'd maybe just bring Itachi and Nagato. I mean,
I think I agree with that. I think he would send the other Kage elsewhere to deal with the scraps of people who are left. Like whoever Nagato and Itachi don't get to, he would send the Kage after them. And his other Edos who are still around, like Kimimaro and Chiyo and stuff.
Do you really think Obito would be interested in negotiating with Kabuto?
No, they wouldn't negotiate. Obito would just go try to kill him and get Naruto and beat back. But like Kabuto would like frame it as a negotiation because I think Kabuto would want to kill Obito. Because I think that Obito's the last person who Kabuto has to worry about.
I think Kabuto has everything like on his side right now to just get it over on Obito. He's like, look, you either kill me and never get these Jinchuriki, or you do what I want. And that's really how it goes.
Yeah, basically. Okay, so Obito gets to the hideout, whatever cave that Kabuto's in, he gets there. He has the 6 Jinchuriki in tow. Kabuto is being guarded by Nagato and Itachi. They start talking. Obito absolutely refuses to do what Kabuto wants because Obito like really believes in the Eye of the Moon plan, and he doesn't just want to be Kabuto's lackey for world domination or whatever. And so he's just like, no, you give him to me or I'll kill you. And I think that Obito like respects Itachi and Nagato, but I don't think he's that afraid of them because I mean, Kabuto summoned everybody there at once, and Obito didn't really seem that shook until Madara showed up. So I think that Obito was prepared to fight Kabuto before, even without the Rinnegan. Now, I'm not saying like necessarily that this is indicative of like his success rate, but I think that he like it's in character for him to fight Kabuto here, right? I don't think he's gonna listen to him.
Yeah.
So these two are gonna fight, and this is like, if you thought it was complicated before, this is where it gets really complicated. So, first of all, like we've established, Kamui is not a win button against these Edos because Kabuto can just summon them back. Another thing, too, is I don't think that Obito will actually use the Edo Jinchuriki here because he doesn't want them to get sealed in the Totsuka Blade where he'll never be able to get them back. Yep. Right? Those, like, then the Biju are just gone permanently and there will be no Ten Tails ever again. And, yeah, I think Obito's like, okay, that is, like, I mean, like that is a lose condition, like if there ever was one for the Eye of the Moon plan. So he would probably just try to fight Itachi, Nagato, and Kabuto all by himself. Now, if you've been around the channel for a while, or you've seen any of Six's videos, we both think Obito is really strong.
Yep.
I don't know if he's this strong, like strong enough to beat Kabuto, Nagato, and Itachi all at the same time, all working together. I think he could probably do it, but it would not be easy, like at all. Like it would probably be the closest fight that, like the closest hypothetical fight I've ever talked about.
Yeah.
Like this matchup is really, really, really hard.
So, before we get too deep into the versus battle, I just thought about something that kind of like might change the course of it. Do all the Renegons summon the same King of Hell?
I think, but I don't know. It might be different. Like, are you saying Obito would just be able to get them back?
Yeah.
Well, wait, doesn't he have the same Rinnegan as Nagato anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they have the same eyes.
So,
anyway.
okay, so I think before this then, Kabuto would not be dumb enough to... I think he would take Naruto and B out of the King of Hell, and he would just restrain them or something.
Maybe that's what he meant by,
that.
like, reviving them. Like, he would take
Yeah.
them into the King of Hell, revive them so that Obito couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That has to have been what he meant.
Yeah, let's have that be what we meant earlier. We'll retcon the first part of the video. He's now doing that with Naruto and
So
B.
he has like Naruto, B, and Sasuke somewhere in the cave in like a coma or whatever. Who knows,
one of those
right?
Edo coffins or something.
Yeah. And Obito is fighting him, Nagato, and Itachi, like we said. So Obito's only real win con here is to put Kabuto into Kamui and then deal with Itachi and Nagato, which is going to be easier said than done because it's like Itachi's a problem here, right? Like, I don't really talk about it that much when I throw Itachi into versus battles because I put him up against like I do him dirty. I put him up against people historically who are just like kind of like really bad matchups for him, like Minato and Obito and stuff. We don't really have to worry about the Totsuka Blade. But like the thing is, when you're fighting somebody who has infinite Totsuka Blade and also has Nagato at like max power and Sage Kabuto on their team, like, bro, that's tough.
Yeah, that's a
because
tough
Kabuto
team.
has the
That team.
Kabuto has the dragon and like the Taiyuya Genjutsu, and Obito doesn't have anybody here to snap him out of the Genjutsu, right?
Yeah.
So like he just has to be really careful. He basically just has to he has to fight perfectly, but Kabuto has room to make a couple mistakes.
And that Genjutsu is strong, by the way. When Kabuto uses it, when he imbues it with that Sage Chakra, that jutsu is strong. It took 2 Mangekyo tier Genjutsu to break that Genjutsu. That is a strong Genjutsu. And Obito has no one to look him in the eyes, like Swag just said earlier. He has no one to look him in the eyes and break him out of that Genjutsu. So
he has to be quick. He has to go straight up to Kabuto and like get rid of him immediately, and that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Six and I were talking about this. I don't know if he'd be able to absorb the white dragon jutsu that like paralyzed Sasuke and Itachi and would probably paralyze Obito too. I also don't know if that jutsu would affect Itachi and Nagato at the same time, or if they'd be immune to it. Because, like, Edos don't feel pain or anything, so it's possible that their senses are dulled, but it did still paralyze Itachi. Maybe Kabuto has, like would be able to turn on, like, a friendly fire filter or something for it. But I don't know. It's complicated.
The way Kabuto avoids it is by liquefying his insides and shutting off his eyesight, so it just doesn't affect him.
I don't think that the Yada mirror would block it because it's like light.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it's also like it's like and sound, and Itachi's still able to like talk to Sasuke from behind the Yada mirror. So probably not, right? But it's like again, like I don't know if because it still works on him. So it's obviously not like a friendly fire filter. So maybe it will affect Nagato and Itachi. So like there are a couple of ways that you can look at this. If it does affect Nagato and Itachi, then Kabuto uses it and hopes that it turns off Kamui and then rushes at Obito, and one of two things happen. Either he kills Obito right there, or Obito sucks him into Kamui. That's the only way that ends. The other one is it doesn't work on Nagato and Itachi, which probably isn't the case. And if Obito can't use Kamui, he gets Totsuka bladed, and that's it. Because like he'd be stuck in place. And like so he either has to retreat or start phasing through, and I don't know how this would work. Like I don't know which of these would end up happening. I'm pretty sure it's locking Nagato and Itachi down though, based on what happened to Edo Itachi when he fought Kabuto. I don't know if Kabuto would rush Obito in that situation though.
I mean, you'd probably have Itachi Totsuka blade him to be safe,
but Itachi would be paralyzed too.
Oh, he can still use Susanoo though. He did it. He did it in that example when Kabuto used the dragon.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be able to see Obito to Totsuka Blade.
Kabuto can do it.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
You think Obito will be able to phase through it? Because by the time Itachi recovers, I think Obito would be fine to use Kamui. Like if Itachi can still use Susanoo, then Obito should still be able to use Kamui.
I mean, I guess that would be up to like resilience to the jutsu. I think that him being in Edo probably gave him a higher resistance to it because they're like kind of constantly regenerating or whatever. Like they can't be any permanent damage to an Edo Tensei, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. So that's possible, but Obito also has this weird like Hashirama regeneration stuff that gives him insanely high resilience too, so who knows. There's also the question of if Obito could and would absorb the white dragon, right? Like I don't know. Right, there are so many different things. Like, so if we're talking about who's most likely to win the fight, I think it's a like, regardless of who it is, I think it's a like 5.5 to 4.5 for either side here.
Yeah.
And I think I want to lean towards Obito. But like, it's hard to ignore that Itachi and Kabuto and Nagato all have like really busted stuff in their arsenals that just immediately win them the fight. I mean, Obito does too, obviously, right? Like he has the strongest jutsu in the whole series, but it like the way it interacts with 3 people that are this dangerous, it's really complicated and interesting, I think. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out who wins the fight.
I think that because Swag brought this up before we were recording, and I think it was really interesting.
Oh yeah.
He brought up how when Obito was fighting Fu and Torine, he basically did a feint, and he made Torine touch Fu with his bug hand, and he like infected him or whatever. He was like, okay, well, what if this happens on a larger scale? with Itachi and Nagato. Like, you know, Itachi brings out the Totsuka Blade, tries to stab Obito, and he ends up hitting Nagato because Obito phased or whatever. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And I was like, well, Obito does this type of stuff in character. These are mindless zombies at this point. I don't think it's out of the possibility or out of the realm of possibility that Obito would do something like this and that he could actually pull it off.
I think if Kishimoto wrote this fight, I think that this would happen too. Yeah,
like a
so
callback.
I think that it's likely that this would take place. So it would be down to just Obito, Itachi, and Kabuto. And I think that Kabuto might be so dumbstruck by this that Obito would get him with Kamui or something. Now that's pushing it a little bit, but regardless, I think that if Itachi takes out Nagato, I think that Obito's odds of winning go up like significantly, right? So I think that after enough time has passed, Obito would come out on top and win this fight, because you know, like losing a whole member of the 3-man team is like a big deal. So yeah, Obito probably wins in the long run through his like crazy like MLG Kamui trick feint thing. But I think that before it gets to that point, Kabuto would probably summon Madara as like a last ditch.
Yes, sir.
And this is where things get like really weird, because so when we did our Obito versus Madara video back in December, we gave Obito a lot of benefits that he will not have in this what if scenario, because it was like a versus battle and we didn't want Madara to have these massively unfair advantages. But Madara has those like rods and stuff, and he has the seal on Obito's heart. So I think that as soon as Kabuto brings him back, Madara is just going to Rene Tensei himself. And then Kabuto and Itachi, if Itachi's even still around, are done. And before any of you are like, well, wouldn't he just listen to what Kabuto has to say? So first of all, Orochimaru said that Hashirama was able to break out of his control, like at any time, if he wanted to. So there's a precedent for this already. But second of all, Six and I reread a lot of the Madara-Kabuto interactions, and Madara was just doing whatever he wanted. Yeah. Like, Kabuto would suggest things to him, and he'd be like, no, I want to do this instead.
Yep. He's straight up just like when he does Deep Forest Emergence, he's straight up like, I kind of want to try this out. And then he just does Deep Forest Emergence. So he's in control of his own body. He doesn't have to listen to Kabuto. And I don't even think Kabuto would make Madara listen to him. And then we were thinking, well, who would Madara side with? Because he should be able to just break out of Tensei anyway. Who would Madara side with? He's probably going to side with Kabuto, you know, beat Obito down, make him do a Rene rebirth on him so that he can become the 10 Tails Jinchuriki or whatever. Just siding with Kabuto is the better option here for him entirely.
Yeah, but then he's taking Kabuto out.
Yeah, and then Kabuto dies.
Like as soon as he gets his real body back. Yep. So now I know people are gonna be mad at me, like, oh wow, Swag, you turned what if Itachi never switched sides into Madara winning. But look, I said this before we started recording. I didn't want this to be what happens, but it's either Kabuto beats Obito, which I think is less likely, or eventually Kabuto summons Madara, and then Madara beats Obito, and then beats Kabuto.
Yeah. So it's just kind of how it turns out. And then, like, I guess Kaguya shows up at the very end, and no one. Like after Madara
activates the infinite, Madara activates infinite Tsukuyomi, all that. Kaguya shows up. Nobody stops her, and then into the Boruto era, she fights Momoshiki or whatever. Who knows? We're probably just gonna stop at the end of Shippuden, because I don't want to be like, well, she would fight Momoshiki, and then what? Would she fight Ishiki? Like that's a whole that doesn't belong in a discussion about the subject in the title of this video. That's going a little bit too far.
Boruto also doesn't exist in this timeline.
Yeah, Boruto would never be born because Naruto died way back, in the war arc. So, but yeah, we get a very bad ending with like the bad ending music playing at the end with with Kaguya just floating around, ominously looking down at the planet, getting all her chakra back. Everybody turned into white Zetsus. It sucks.
Yep.
Itachi actually saved like the whole planet with that Koro Matsukami.
Itachi and Naruto carried. Who would have thought?
Yeah. There's no good ending though for this, like because if Kabuto takes out Obito, then like Kabuto just takes over the world, I guess. and is a piece of shit, evil Orochimaru weirdo.
Who just does
And
experiments.
those are really
on
the
people.
only two outcomes. Like, what is like, well, no, okay. So if Kabuto takes out Obito, then I guess Guy would probably be able to beat Kabuto with the 8th gate. But all of the Edo Tensei would still be around, and nobody would be able to stop them. So it'd just be the Walking Dead Naruto edition. But yeah, I think that's everything. So if you stuck around this long, appreciate it. If you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. Leave a like, all that jazz. Also, if you haven't already, go check out Six's channel. Consider subscribing to him, checking out his videos.
Yes.
And yeah, till next time, talk to you later.